Who, what, when, where, why am I here?
Hello Ground Control, I'm Paul, and this is RetroStellar, where a mobile phone means you have a 30-foot cord in the kitchen. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's watched so far and subscribed, and an even bigger thanks to those of you who've gone to my store at overjupiter.com to buy a shirt. I really appreciate it. Today on RetroStellar, we're launching a new interview segment, which I hope to do from time to time. This is Cerebral Vortex, a whirlwind of questions. To help me out today, I brought in my friend R.I.C.O, which stands for Reanimated Inquisitive Cognition Organ. He's an experimental knowledge processor whipped up here by the science interns at Overjupiter Labs. R.I.C.O is bathing in a solution of epinephrine and tyrosine, which stimulates the curiosity centers of the frontal cortex. The resulting brain waves are processed through a speech emulator, giving us access to his unique and probing questions. Say hello, R.I.C.O.
Why would you want me to do that?
See, he's already asking questions. So with that quick test, let me bring in our guest. Marc Allie is an author and educator from Southwest Missouri, a self-professed geek who's fanatical about Transformers, Godzilla, Star Wars, and much, much more. He's published 2 autobiographical books, and this is his first novel, The Thing from the Drive-In. Welcome, Marc.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
So, Marc, I'm here with R.I.C.O, the Reanimated Inquisitive Cognition Organ. He's here to help me out with the interview since I don't have a lot of experience doing that.
Hi, R.I.C.O. I've never met a brain in a jar before. Very cool.
Greetings, Marc. What is the entire plot of your book in 50 words or less?
Well, I'll give you an overview. The Thing from the Drive-In is set in the 80s. It's about a kid named Kyle. Kyle is out riding his bike after school one day, and he sees a meteorite crash, and he finds a tiny little rock inside, kind of like a marble, and all sorts of weird stuff begins to happen after he finds it. He goes to the movies later that week with his best buddy Ethan and Ethan's older sister, Diana, who is his secret crush. During the movie, the atomic dinosaur comes out of the movie screen and begins to tear things up.
How does your novel end?
R.I.C.O, I'm not sure Marc wants the audience to know the ending to his book. That would kind of ruin the fun of it.
Understood. What is the most important plot twist in your book?
Like Paul said, I don't think we want to spoil that for the readers.
R.I.C.O, maybe you could ask Marc a little bit about the writing process.
My understanding is that crafting a novel is a difficult task. What was the hardest part for you?
Really, R.I.C.O, the hardest part is just getting the idea on your brain out onto the paper. The blank page can be very intimidating. Instead of thinking, I'm going to write 60,000 words for my novel, you got to think, I'm going to write 500 words today. And you just do that enough days in a row, and by the time you know it, it's already done.
What do you think about when you are eating a ham sandwich?
I really apologize. This thing is kind of glitchy. It's kind of experimental.
In a cage match between an ostrich and a swarm of hornets, which creature would win?
I guess I'd go with the swarm of hornets.
Which is more frightening, a clown in a bathrobe or a baby carved out of wood? Does this jar make me look fat? Does this jar make me look fat?
My apologies again, Marc. I think I'm just going to turn R.I.C.O's audio down, and I'll just ask the questions after all. I admire anyone who has the discipline to write a long-form piece of fiction. So tell us a little bit about, how long did it take to actually write the book from idea to completion?
It took just over 18 months, basically through 2 NaNoWriMos. I always participate in National Novel Writing Month, which is kind of like this online challenge to write as much as you can in the month of November. And The Thing from the Drive-In basically went through 2 of those, plus writing in between as well. But it took far longer than the other books I've written. It took about 1.5 years.
So, Marc, for you, what does the actual physical writing process look like? Are you like a legal pad guy? Do you have, do you work off a laptop? Do you have to be in a coffee shop or in your office? What's that look like for you?
I use Google Docs for all of mine. If I'm at school or if I'm at home or if I'm on the road, I can take my laptop with me. I can even write in the car. If I've connected to my hotspot, I can always be writing. Just finding those times here and there. So there's not really any particular spot. It's just kind of wherever I have to be when I have the ideas and want to get them down.
I'm sure like most writers, you've experienced the creative challenge of writer's block, hitting the wall. How did you handle that?
Well, there's 2 basic things that I do. Like sometimes you can't figure out how to get from A to C. And so I always just skip to C anyway. and then I can go back in later and make the connecting tissue, I guess. When I was writing The Thing from the Drive-In, there was a few months where I really could not figure out how to advance the plot any further. I wasn't having any great ideas. So I just totally stopped writing that. I wrote sort of a horror story called Periphery. And so it was totally different. It was kind of like a palate cleanser for me. And after that, I was able to go back to The Thing from the Drive-In with kind of a fresh perspective and kind of pick it up from there.
You know, people say write what you know, but Marc, I'm sure you've never seen a live dinosaur burst through a movie screen before. Are there any elements of the book that are based on your real life?
Well, surprisingly more than you would think. The setting of the book is basically Bolivar, Missouri, the town that I live in. I don't name it, but as far as characters, I mean, I guess loosely you would say that the main character is based on me as a kid, maybe. But mainly the real inspiration for one of the characters, Diana, the main character's secret crush, is my wife, Dina. I basically copied her, you know, the way she looks and all the things that she did in high school. Like they're both in color guard in the band. And so Diana was totally based on my wife, Dina.
Well, it's definitely a smart choice to have the main character's crush based on your wife.
Yeah.
Good call, Marc. So I know this is your third book and you have lots of other creative projects going on. Can you tell us what inspires you, makes you want to create?
Sure. So I'm like a huge fan of giant monster movies and 50s B movies in particular. And, you know, I grew up on Star Wars and Star Trek and read comic books all the time. And so all those kind of elements are tied into all the stuff that I do. And in fact, The Thing from the Drive-In, I try to pull in as much of that stuff as I possibly could. Just kind of all throughout, you'll find these retro elements of that kind of captured that time period when I was a kid where the future was going to be something so much better and more cool than what it actually turned out to be.
Well, all that retro nostalgia really shines through in the book. Why don't you tell folks how they can get a copy of The Thing from the Drive-In?
Well, the best place to go is marcallie.com. You can go there and get the books from me. You buy them from me directly, and you'll get them for the same price. You get them anywhere, and I'll sign them and ship them to you for free. Or if you read on Kindle, you can get them from the Kindle store, and you can also get physical books on Amazon as well.
Sadly, we're about out of time, but let's check in one last time with R.I.C.O and see if he's got any questions left in him.
Would you be willing to punch a badger in the face for 50 cents?
Okay, looks like we're going to be going back to the lab with R.I.C.O. Well, Marc, thank you so much for being with us on the show. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on again. Keep up the good work.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this special interview edition of the show. If you're a creative person like Marc, I'd love to know what inspires you or hear about anything that you're making. Just leave a note in the comments or message me on Twitter. That does it for this episode of Retro Stellar, remembering yesterday's, tomorrow's, today.
Thank you so much for watching. Please take a second and click the subscribe button to see future videos. Go to overjupiter.com for the best sci-fi, superhero, and pop culture t-shirts on this or any planet. Use the code RETRO15 to save 15% store-wide. See you next time.